Jerry, you come in here. Okay. Okay, it is a little bit after 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, July the 24th. Time to call to order our city council meeting as scheduled. That as we all rise, we invite Pastor Jerry Hickam, who is here with us, to lead us in an invocation. Jerry?
Lord, Heavenly Father, as we come to you, Lord, we thank you for our beautiful day today. We thank you for this council and this city, all the administration and all the employees. We pray that you'd be with this council tonight as they consider the agenda, give them wisdom and understanding, and go with us through the remainder of this evening. We give you the thanks for all things. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hickam. All right, Deputy Clerk Ripley, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Hughes.
Here.
Alderman Curry-Witzman.
Here.
Alderman Brown.
Here.
Alderman Voss.
Here.
Alderman McComb.
Here.
Alderman Urbis.
Here.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Bastian.
Here.
Alderman Campos.
Here.
And Alderman Pittman.
Here.
All right, it's good to have everybody here this evening. And on our agenda tonight, we have up first a presentation. I'll give a little bit of background on this before I introduce Keith. The downtown area, Walnut Street, north or south side of Walnut Street, has been certainly an important part of the community. That's obvious. And there has been some discussion of late about, some of those buildings changing hands. And through the course of that investigation, some of those buildings need more TLC than others do. And so it has sort of been in my mind for quite a while for us to take up the consideration of forming a TIF district for the downtown area to help facilitate the growth there and the ability to inject some money into rehabilitation of those properties, especially if they should come under new ownership. So with that, Keith Moran and I have been kind of talking this back and forth for I don't know how many months. Keith's put up with a lot of different delays and things, and I appreciate his patience. But with that being said, I thought I would invite him to start this discussion and kind of renew our minds about what tax increment financing is. You remember we did this for the Apple Tree Inn development. And so with that, I'll turn it over to him and let him introduce himself and who he is and what he does and how he feels he might be able to help us in that endeavor.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you guys very much for having me. Again, my name is Keith Moran. I'm with Moran Economic Development. We're a TIF and economic development consulting firm out of Edwardsville. Got a lot of clients down here and that we've been helping not only just with general TIF assistance, but also economic development. But just kind of resetting, but we're a TIF and economic development consulting firm out of Edwardsville. We specialize in establishing and administering TIF districts. We work with business districts, also work with enterprise zones, do some comprehensive planning, and then we also serve as part-time economic development consultants to communities that don't have the resources to have someone full-time. So for instance, if the city of Heron needs some economic development expertise or TIF expertise, they call me, and I come, I help work out the project details, and then off I go once we hopefully work that project to a success. We work all over southern and central Illinois. Being from Edwardsville, I spend a lot of time here in southern Illinois. Some of our local clients are, in fact, Heron. We've done a little bit with Carterville, West Frankfurt's been a client of ours. Doing some things in Cesar, Vienna, Illinois, all over the place. I was actually up in Rochelle, Illinois, which is doing a major industrial project up there. So we're kind of all over the state of Illinois, but we do concentrate most of our expertise here in southern Southern Illinois, helping with TIF and economic development related issues. We got a lot of TIFs that actually the vast majority of TIF districts that we work or help establish incorporate downtown areas. And in just naming local TIF district areas, you know, Heron's downtown, they've got 2, and they've got a really nice facade improvement program that they've employed in their TIF number 2, which has helped some of the facade improvements there. You guys have probably noticed some of the changes there if you've driven through there. Carterville, we're trying to do some things. If I had my way, I would revamp that TIF just a little bit. But West Frankfort done a lot of good things with the TIF, not only out near the industrial park and the outlet mall, but certainly downtown. We've done quite a bit, and they've struggled, and we've needed every last bit of TIF help to help with their downtown area. Vienna, we've got our square, and lots, you know, between the county, that being the county seat, and an aging square area. TIF has certainly helped that revitalization in downtown Vienna. We're also in Harrisburg, where we've done quite a bit of downtown redevelopment, which includes improvements to City Hall, some of the hardware stores, a lot of the storefronts and retail fronts there in Harrisburg, just to name a few. And so when we got to talking, I know you've got a pretty significant project, hopefully, in the works. And if you're going to kind of work that project, which might consist of utilizing TIF to help spur that development, we might want to consider it for your downtown area as well. Because often TIF is not only used to attract businesses, but it's also used to retain businesses as well and help our existing business community expand their locations, fix their locations up, that sort of thing. And so what I wanted to do is just sort of illustrate how that works with you guys. And by using, I'll call it the Kerwood building. Is that an appropriate?
Sure.
We call it the Kerwood building just to give you a good illustration, and I think our audience folks will get a feel for how this TIF animal works too. Because there are some bad TIFs out there, but if you do them right, it's one of the most effective economic development tools you can utilize. It's actually one of the very few economic development tools that cities have at their disposal to take on redevelopment activities. Federal government's not exactly giving any money away, and we know our friends at the state aren't as willing to give money to help with revitalization efforts either. And so right now what we have is I'm looking at a tax bill for that Kerwood property. And right now what we have is total value, or a third of the market value, is about $83,000. So basically the county has come in, or the township assessors come in and says, that's got a value of about $240,000. If I just kind of did some reverse math, 80,000 times 3. They're saying the market value, if they would sell it today, it would be $240,000. Well, for tax purposes, you take a third of that value, and right now it's sitting at $83,328. Well then, if you turn the page, what you'll see is, and down towards the bottom, you'll see a tax rate of 10.2291. And what that is a combination of each taxing district's rate. So meaning that's how much they're going to be requesting rate-wise throughout the corporate limits of the city of Murphysboro. And so we've got a 10.22 rate. We've got Jackson County of 1.65 of that 10.22. We got the school with about half of that rate. We've got the city with actually lower than the county, which congrats to you guys considering how many more services you guys provide here. You've got a lower rate than what the county actually has, which you don't always see, by the way. And so you also have Park District and the airport and Logan College and the library district, all consisting of that. And so what happens when it's all said and done, the owners of Kerwood pay $8,523 in taxes. Of that, about $3,881 goes to the school. You guys get $1,300. Jackson County gets $1,376, so on and so forth, as you guys can see listed on that breakout. So now what we do in a TIF, what we're doing actually is we're freezing the base value of the properties that are located in our TIF. And now keep in mind, as you guys recall, with your first TIF, you had to have an eligibility study and do a redevelopment plan that formally allowed you guys, gave you guys the power to do those things. And so just suggesting that we've done all those things, we're now freezing the base value of that property. So the base value would be $83,000. Now, any new investment that's going to occur from that point forward, that money is going to be redistributed to your TIF fund, your newly created TIF fund, which would be, I'd call it your downtown TIF fund or TIF number 2, whatever you might be. So what I've tried to do is on this following page is I've tried to illustrate someone coming into the Kerwood building and spending, I say $1 million, but not all of that would be taxable. I'm suggesting that they made $900,000 of improvements to that building. And so right now, remember, we've got an EAV of $83,000. That's our base. The new portion, or the tax increment portion, would be $300,000, and so now the total value would be $383,000. If that, you can kind of follow along with my math. So now what's going to happen is after they make all their improvements to the building, new roofs, maybe they add on, just rehab, redo the tile, flooring, all kinds of different things that you can imagine a facility like this would be from an improvement standpoint. Now their tax bill is going to go from $85,224 to just under to $39,211. What will happen as a result of you guys doing your TIF is that $85,224 would continue to go to all the taxing districts like it always had. And so if you recall, you guys getting $1,300 in your general fund, the county getting $1,376 or $1,376, school getting $4,000 something. Now what would happen is that estimated TIF increment, that approximately $30,000, would go into your TIF number 2 fund. Okay? And so what you could do with that, knowing that they've made that investment, prior to them making that investment, you could say, okay, I know $30,000 is going to come into our TIF fund, so what we can do is we can offer an incentive to them as an incentive to build their project in the first place, if we've gotten to this point. So you might say, hey, Kerwood folks, if you guys invest what you say you're going to invest, we know $30,000 is coming into our TIF fund. What we'll do is we'll rebate a portion of those monies back to you for X amount of years for making that investment in the city of Murphysboro and into that building. And so that's how you see a lot. And in this case, I just said I illustrated a 10-year deal where you guys outlaid a $168,000 incentive to those folks to make the investment. Now you can't do that. You need to, before they start investing, you need to work out your details in an agreement, which I could work with you guys on all those types of things. So you want to do that well ahead of them sticking a shovel in the ground or taking a hammer to a nail. But that's how a lot of those deals that you guys read about in the newspaper that Marion does or that Aaron might do or a lot of these other folks, that's how they're structuring deals. Is they're taking dollars that might not be there, but for us giving an incentive, who knows, they might go elsewhere. Maybe they buy the Maytag building in Heron instead and invest there because Heron's willing to give an incentive, for instance. So you're basically, you're inducing development through working your TIF fund. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's also what you did with your first TIF too. And so you kind of understand that. Now, where it would make sense to me is that, okay, we do a 50-50 deal, meaning we'll rebate about $15,000 back to the Kerwood folks. Well, that means we get to keep 15. Now what I suggest, and the reason I would suggest this, is that we take that 15 and then we start to use that elsewhere in our TIF, and that would be in the other areas of our downtown TIF district. So maybe what I would look at is maybe you repair some sidewalks in that area. Maybe you set aside 10 of that $15,000 and say, hey, I'm going to give 5 $2,000 grants to building owners who want to improve their facades. And so it's just going to kind of depend. But what you're going to be able to do is use those monies elsewhere in your TIF district area to hopefully spur additional investment in those areas as well as the Kerwood. So that's why we try to build this in a way to where, you know, what's going good for one area can also be used to help redevelop another. And so that's why what you'll see, like, for instance, I'll just give kind of a it's not the greatest example, but it's one that we've all seen, is in Heron, we worked really hard for the Memory Care Center, that village at Hollybrook down there, right at Route 13 there, South Heron, if you know where we're at. They were looking in Marion, they were looking all over the place. But for the city of Heron using their TIF fund, they basically restructured a deal just similar to this. It was, I think it was a 60-40 deal over 10 or over 15 years, I can't recall exactly. But what it means is that thing is generating a ton of money. And that leaves us with like $60,000 or $70,000 annually. And what they've done is they've taken the portion that Herring gets to keep of that $60,000, they use that to make improvements all the way up north into North Herring, because that's how far that TIF spans. And so I just want to sort of talk to you, that's an example of how like a real life example of what you've seen happen in Herring. And so, so that's a quick version. The last page, or the last 2 pages, are just sort of a general preliminary area of your TIF. And I'm just kind of showing it here. I don't know where we're at here, but there's that Kerwood building, just kind of wraps into that. If we were hired, we would certainly work with you guys on a potential TIF district area. I mean, that's not set in stone. Your TIF needs to be large enough to where it's going to generate something, and large enough for you guys to really accomplish some of your goals and objectives of your downtown, but you don't want it too large to where we're negatively impacting our taxing districts either. Because remember, we are redistributing tax dollars into your TIF fund that in an ideal situation your taxing districts would look at. But right now is a perfect opportunity for you guys to kind of look at a TIF, especially considering you might have a project in tow. The only other thing I'd want to say is that without knowing where you are in your process of using TIF to maybe as an incentive for anything that might occur at the Kerwood building, you'd want to have this done by the year's end. And the reason you would is because the base value of the whole, not only that building, but this whole area would be the value of 2017. And so what you don't want to, what can spoil a TIF is that, think about if we missed a year and all of a sudden they made that investment and our new base was $383,000. What would happen is no money would be generated in our TIF fund. And that could potentially happen. And then I don't even know about the timing of some of the other potential investments that you might have here, like with your other downtown buildings that you were kind of mentioning, which would also, it would be in your best interest to do it by year's end, because once you flip the calendar year, the new value is whatever the value is today. So I don't want to sound like I'm rushing, but you guys are really at that point to where if you want to do a TIF, and you've got projects that are reliant on potential TIF, you want it done by the end of the year. And as you recall, it doesn't happen overnight. Setting a TIF district, you're going to wind up doing an eligibility or feasibility study where we'll talk about how the area qualifies. And the area will qualify, almost downtown areas will and do. We'll also have a redevelopment plan, goals and objectives. What do we want to accomplish with the TIF? We'll talk to our taxing districts about what we hope to achieve with this TIF. And then we'll also have a public hearing where we talk to the general public about what we would hope to achieve with this TIF. There's costs to that, and I've got sort of a budget outlined on the very back of this page. That ends at around $35,000, but that is in no way, shape, or form all our fees. But there are a lot of mailings, notices in the paper, legal descriptions, and stuff like that. And I can make, I can send as many of these out as you need to, but obviously the mayor was concerned with cost of this thing. But where you're at, sounds like you guys could be in a position to where it's going to generate something right away. And that's, when you have a project in tow, those are the best ways to do your TIFs because it'll generate money right away. You could also repay yourself for the cost of doing a TIF as well with future TIF funds, which would help you set up. And so I tried to go as fast as possible. I'm so sorry for some of our audience members who are here. But I'm hoping I gave a good, clear picture of using some real life examples of how a TIF works and what its impact could potentially be on the city. All I have for now. I'll answer any questions unless.
If none of the aldermen have any questions, I just have a quick comment, and that's just that inside any particular TIF, you can, of course, strike different deals with different groups inside of there. So it doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all type of agreement. If we felt like, we wanted to make sure that the, school district or whomever may have concerns, you could do just a 5-year incentive at Kerwood, and you could do a 20-year incentive, for the rest of the downtown area or something of that nature. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that too because it's been part of our conversation.
And you can also use the enterprise zone as well. The sales tax exemption on building materials, you could also use
Sure.
in combination with the TIF.
Mr. Bratton?
I just had one clarification here. So your fee for this is just a shade under 29,000?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's no hidden costs or anything like that. It's not all of a sudden
I
some weird
saw
bill.
that,
I can get you a contract that lays all that out because it's your attorney and all that, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it very much. Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none. Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Give me a call, email, whatever you guys need.
Okay.
No, there aren't no silly questions, okay?
All right,
All right. Thank you guys.
thank you. All right, thank you for attentively listening to Mr. Moran's presentation. Up next, we go to our regular business here, and that is up first, the consideration of council minutes from July the 10th, 2018. And I'd entertain any questions about the minutes at this time. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, up next we have consideration of accounts payable registers. And I believe we got one right before the meeting. Entertain any questions on the bills at this time. Ms. Hughes.
The very first one on 692, I spoke to Leslie about it, and Sandra's not here, and no one's here from there.
Sandra's right
Sandra's
here.
right here.
Oh, hi. Oh, my God. Hi, ma'am. Anyway, does anybody know, last month we paid a bill about this size, I believe, to the same
What
company.
page you on, Barb?
First one on one, to this Advanced Industrial Controls. I guess my biggest concern is, if this is the same thing that's breaking over and over on that, we need to figure out why and not just keep repairing that. And no one's here from streets, so.
I don't know. I know the fountain has been running for some time. Back in the spring, I called Tim and said, hey, you know, what's going on with the fountain? And he said, well, I don't know. I'll check into it. But if this is you're right, if this is a similar bill, we ought to check it out so we can hold it. I don't have any problem with it.
I would like to see that held until we find out if it's the same, you know, if they didn't fix it the first time, maybe we don't owe this one.
Okay. Mr. Irvis?
Well, I'll follow up on that. I mean, I know Smizer gives us a lot of money, and particularly for the parks. Is that something we can ask reimbursement for, or we kind of
Well-
take advantage of them?
It's usually August when they do give us one.
I did meet with Bert Osborne today, and he did from Smizer Trust, and he did say that they'd pay for park maintenance again next year, and that they would probably be more than willing to foot the bill for the, or he actually said there's no question we're gonna help pay for the repair at Smizer Plaza. So, that was good news. Mr. Bratton?
Same register, page 2. I've got a question on the farmer's market. I know we're supposed to have someone up there. And the bill's for May, June, and July. But all I see up there now is like 2 or 3 tables, which is one of, I think, is Mrs. Lindsay, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And to me, we're paying a lot of money. We're not receiving any money back from them. They're not buying a permit. They're not paying for their space. I don't understand why, you know, all they have to do is just set the sign out there and that's it. I wonder if that's something that next year's budget, I'm sure that we've already committed for this year, that we can eliminate. One of my little pet peeves, kind of a thorn in the side, is taking taxpayers' money and not spending it wisely.
Well, I'd agree with you that we haven't had a very successful market this year, and so I'd be more than happy to entertain that at budget time.
I'd just like for the rest of the council, and Mayor and yourself, to think about that. I know we've cut back to 1 person. And the other questions on, still haven't got my eyes fixed, so I'm having a little problem here. What page is that?
5.
Page 5.
Gary, I know you do a lot of running and cleaning and whatever, but the bill that we reimbursed you for, what is that?
That is for our community night out. That's
Okay.
not reimbursed from me, Danny. That's made out to me. Sandra will hold the check, and I'll sign the check over to her, and she will buy the money for our game.
Okay.
That's-
okay. I thought maybe it was reimbursement for the gas for this year or this next, and I know
No,
you do a lot of running and
it's
everything
community
else.
night out, the money we voted from the
Correct.
other stuff. And then the other one was for the $100 hole sponsor.
Yes,
That's
yes.
all that money was left from the cleanup.
Yeah,
down
I
there.
figured it was something like that. I just wanted
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah, that
That's all
don't
I-
go to me.
Mayor, I just have one more.
Danny, were you done?
Danny said.
Yes, I was.
Ms. Hughes?
On page 10, and it's actually something for Chief Roberts. On page 10, number 2, the Taser International, I think this is part of the grant monies, is that correct?
This
Is that-
this is the safety grant. The holsters
Yeah.
are a one-time expenditure from it.
What's that year payment then
And then
is
the
what I
year
was
payment is
supposed
the plan I brought to you guys that keeps our tasers up to date.
to- Okay, that's fine, but that's paid by grant money?
That's the safety grant.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Chief, could you repeat that? I didn't pick that.
That's the safety grant plan I brought to you about replacing all the tasers.
Correct?
5-year plan we entered
Correct,
into.
correct.
That's payment 1, and that came out of the safety grant.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Anything further? Entertain a motion to pay the bills,
So moved.
Second.
with, of course, the exception of the advanced industrial controls. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Bratton?
While we're just getting off the bills, Leandro just showed me that last meeting, we had a question about line item. It was click, 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 everything on it. I think we may need to check with our computer programmer or whatever it is that does all that stuff and find out what it's gonna cost for them to correct their error. I don't know what the rest of the council think about it.
Well, I don't know, if it's correctable, I mean, it would be nice, but I know Scott Evans is familiar with that program to a certain extent, and it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's not a so-called error, I guess. What it really is that for some reason it just repeats the same description down the whole line, even though things are being charged probably to different departments as a result of it, you see the same description. So, we can see if they can change that. You know,
What's strange is it doesn't seem like it happened until last month.
but
it sounds like to me maybe we missed an update or something. I don't know. I mean, that just looks like a,
I mean,
And I want to thank Leandro for bringing that to my attention and bringing me a copy of the breakdown bill, what it was. But,
any software system is gonna have some quirkiness to it in some areas, you know, and this one's no different. I mean,
Yeah.
every module has something a little quirky to it. And we just hope that we hold the quirkiness down to just annoyances like this and not something really, really bad.
right. Well, I mean, is there somebody, Mr., that we can just email their support technician and say,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that would just be a good place to start.
yeah, their programmers are accessible.
Yeah.
And
Are they gonna charge us $500 an hour to reply to the email?
We want to know what it would be.
Usually it's $100 when they want to change something like that,
Yeah.
isn't it? Better answer, $100.
How much is it worth to you, Danny?
As long as Leandro wants to bring me the breakdown and catch it every month, forget it.
You want to hear that every month?
Well, you want to know how important it was.
Okay, gotcha.
13 and a half years, things ain't near as important as they used to be.
All right, that'll take us into our regular committee and commission reports. And we'll go to Budget and Finance chaired by W.J. Pittman. I know we do have some reports from Scott Evans that aren't listed here on the agenda, but I'll turn it over to you, W.J.
We have nothing under old business, nothing under new business, though we do have a report from Mr. Evans. Mr. Evans, do you want to go over that report?
Thank you, David J. Well, I wasn't able to get these to the city council or to the Don Building on Friday. I was on vacation, so I brought these tonight. So I'm sure you guys would have all read them thoroughly over the weekend.
Yes.
You know. So anyway, so what we have is the general fund operating expenses by department. This is the same report we see every month. And so through 6 months, halfway through the year. General fund has spent $2,547,265. And for the same period, for 6 months, we budgeted $2,489,000, so we're about $57,000 over budget. And, this has been a trend. The last few months I've been telling you, the hows and whys of why it's happening. And then the revenue side, we've received $2,475,000 in revenue, and we budgeted $2,490,000, so we're just a slight bit behind on that by about $15,000. So the bottom line is, through the 6 months, the general fund has a deficit of $72,000 close to that. And you can see, as you can see, the different departments shows, which ones are over and which ones are under, like we always do. And again, there are some of the same culprits are still causing some of those overages as we've been talking about for several months in a row. Any questions on that report? Okay. And of course, the next page is the salaries, which is obviously a huge component of all that. Going to the end of the report, and again, keep in mind that this salary report also has water and sewer as well, so it's not exactly apples to apples, but we do like to look at the entire payroll cost of the city from all departments versus budget, since it's such a huge number. So as a result, for the month, total salaries were $241,000 essentially. The budget spread over 12 months is $266,000, so we actually did better than the average budget in June. And year to date, the same metric, $1,599,000 is the budget, and we spent $1,577,000. So citywide, the salaries are in check. And of course, you are going to have some variances amongst the departments, like we talked about. The police contract is obviously one that still is hanging out there. And I think that's the biggest detractor, I guess, from the salaries is that retroactive pay adjustment for the police contract. But it still hasn't brought the entire budget, over budget or anything like that. So we're still in decent shape on that one. Okay, the next one is the healthcare report. And through 6 months on that. General fund, we've spent $264,250 on various components of the healthcare cost, and on water sewer, it's $54,266. And so we should be, hopefully, unless we get some big increase coming in the fall with the new renewal, we're very hopeful that we're going to be within budget. So I'm this was kind of the first year we tried this with us taking on some of the risk with the pay flex and the health reimbursement account. And you never know exactly how that's going to come out until you try it. And so far it's not been a huge problem. That has been very manageable and helped us to keep within budget on this very large item.
Scott, can you refresh my memory, but April was just happened that we got paid for 2 months
Yes.
in that same month. Right?
Yeah, there was some mismatching going on there, yes.
Bratton?
How's our health plan going to be affected next year by the 2 gentlemen that had major surgery? I know it's not going to get, we're not going to get a deduct, but.
Yeah, I can't answer that, honestly. I mean, that's probably going to be a question to ask the insurance agent. He has a better pulse of what the company's going to do on something like that. Of course, they always look at actual claims paid over a certain period, and they compare that to what premiums they received, and they make a determination if they're profitable or not, and that's when they come back, with a new quote. And that's not far away, actually. October 1st is when the new period will be. So the insurance committee, I imagine, will be meeting before then. Maybe we'll have an answer to that question. But I'm not sure they know yet, because maybe all the bills haven't come through for that yet.
We may have to, look at that more than just get one place too. I'm sure it's going to affect it.
Yeah, I would think it would. I can't see how it would.
Thank you.
Okay. But again, pay attention to these different lines, you know, all these different components are what makes up that total healthcare cost. Of course, the big one is the health insurance premiums we put down there. But then, you know, the pay flex is a component, that's the second grouping there. You know, and that's not a small number, it's $52,000 through 6 months. Now we, you know, that's well within what our budget was, but that's a big component. And then, you know, we of course pay for the vision and dental. That's, you know, the city's cost on that. We spent $14,000 on that. Life insurance, almost $2,400. And so those are all the pieces, the moving parts that go into the total healthcare cost. And the only reason I bring it up month after month is next to the payroll, it's the biggest expense we have. It's, you know, almost $700,000 a year, so it's not small at all. So, anyway, last two reports, sales tax first, and so, okay, so you've heard me say for, you know, the first 6 months of the year, well, we're up from this time last year, we're up from this time last year, don't know why. Well, we're down, for some, again, I don't know why. But, our voucher amount this month is $264,000, and the same time last year was $276. So we did experience a drop. First one in about 6 or 7 months in a row. So we have been trending up from last year every single month until then. And of course, this would represent the April sales. So I don't know if there was a weather event. I guess it was. I know it was a late spring or cold spring, and that could have affected some sales. I don't know, but there's about 8,000 parts that go into that number, so it's real hard to pinpoint one thing or another. Anyway, but still, you know, well within our budget expected amounts. So, and then on the income tax vouchering, that's a little bit down from this time last year, 68,000 versus 73, and that's kind of been a downward trend for 3 or 4 years for this particular month. July apparently is not a month when the state gets a tremendous amount of tax receipts versus some months, obviously like April being an exception to that. So, but we're still pretty good on that line too. So, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Evans. And there's no other items under new business. Is there any public comment, budget, finance? No public comment? We can move that budget.
Okay, that'll take us to Building and Grounds, chaired by Mr. Gary McComb.
Under old business, there's nothing. Under new business, discussion regarding offer to sell property on North 13th Street to the city. Do anybody know what the price is on that property?
I do not.
Kind of hard to move forward with it till we figure out what somebody wants for it. And who owns that piece?
Oh, Sandra,
Keith Ellis.
Ellis owns.
His dad had bought that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not directly connected to our public works yard, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
This is the property.
Yeah, but is this our fence line, or they go right to the other side of the street, south side of the street?
Yeah.
So this
Then-
is directly to the north, I guess, of
Yeah.
our current public works yard.
And then at some time, we're gonna have to address below that property, that old house down there, that the trees fell through the roof in a
It's-
May storm.
It's supposed to be the next to be demolished.
Are we gonna end up with a property? I know Eric didn't wanna move forward with it because there was an older gentleman who lived there and had no place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if he still lives there or he got someplace else to go.
He's in the Daniels building.
Is he?
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the Ellis,
Keith
What
wants
for?
to- Fred had bought that in a house across the street a while back.
yeah, but we don't know what kind of price it was.
No.
No, I think it was a situation like any negotiation usually begins. You know, we said, well, what do you want for it? And he said, well, what do you give me for it? And then we said, well, maybe we don't even want it. And so he said, well, why don't you ask the city council if they want it? So now it's on the agenda. And so it's, you know, one of these staring contests at this point on the price of, you know, who wants to.
We'd probably be, take a donation.
Well, one time before.
But, you know, it could be a liability too. Every donation is not a good thing.
One time before, Fred was trying to buy the house below, before he had his accident, he was killed. He was trying to buy most of that block. And he wanted to put some business in there, but it never did happen. But I'd say we hold this until we can figure out what he wants for it, or we want to make an offer on it.
I agree.
That's fine by me. And so I guess the next step would just be to, you know, be pretty clear that, you know, we need to have some sort of starting price, and, you know, it's easier for him as an individual owner to give us a price to start with than it is for us as 10 city council members to.
Go ahead, Gloria.
Yeah, I just, why do we want to buy that property?
It's just, that piece of property, it's adjacent to ours. I mean,
And we didn't
can
approach
control
him.
it.
Public Works Building.
We can control that,
Mhm.
and if we get the older house down below, we can bring that property over in with fill and then slope it down on the other side, because I don't think there'll ever be anything built where the old guy had the house.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's right.
I mean, I'm not for tying much money up in it. If we can get it right, you know, it's right next to the property we traded to Kennedy's outlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it. I mean, it's,
Mr. McComb, maybe we can get together and you can show me exactly how that lays out in there.
Okay.
I'd like to look at that before we even accept it as a donation.
no, we gotta pay for it.
We'll have to do that when Eric gets back, probably to get the exact measurement.
Okay.
He's got them on it,
Okay.
and he's on vacation.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is discussion regarding request to donate the property at 226 North 8th Street. House of Humanity.
All right.
I would enter, you know, they've built, I think you had a letter in there from Mr. Davis where they've built 9 homes over here. And
And this would be 11.
this would be the 10th?
Yes.
The 11th.
This would be the 11th.
Well, I know what said on the one letter I had, but I would entertain a motion, oh, go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Your property. And
Cut the
that's,
chase and get done.
that's done. Trudy, you want to address the council?
I would like to, but I wanted to ask something before. I'm sorry, Mayor. I missed you saying, is there a public question on the earlier one? And I wanted to address this because Scott had mentioned something about sales tax. When we were discussing, when you all were discussing the TIF district with Mr. Moran, I think I'm right, but I might need updating, but I don't think I do. But in a TIF district, any taxable purchases someone makes to improve the property is tax-free. Is that not correct?
Building materials, and he
Building
stated
material.
that, and he stated that.
mentioned 700,000 at the very end, he said something about it, but he mentioned the rehab would be 700,000. That's a lot of money that could possibly have sales tax attached to it. If we're worried about sales tax, somebody should discuss those parameters, I think, maybe at a council hearing or a public hearing. Not where somebody like me is gonna ask a question after everybody didn't think it was an issue. I still think it's an issue. I've dealt with TIF districts and I do historic preservation stuff, and you do get an offset of tax and Operation Main Street. I know it's hard for people to work with those programs. I love those programs, and I don't think it's hard to work with them. The state of Arkansas did a beautiful job with all of theirs, and I think that would be really nice for us to look at, because I know historic preservation is in favor of doing that, and right now the administration in Washington hasn't stopped it, you know, and they haven't stopped it in the state of Illinois. And with all of our programs down here, like the Delta Regional Authority, I always say CEDES, I think because we're one of the 17 poverty level counties in the state, I think we could apply for it and get it. You know, and I think it would be worthwhile to put a little committee together to study it and just put those things out there as part of the TIF.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't ask my question when I should have. My helper here said, no, you can't. So thank you. I'm new with you guys, or with you guys, so thank you very much. If that, you know.
Sure, well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. The reason I wanted to make sure we, under building and grounds was I just, not knowing you had another comment, I knew that this would be a more sort of appropriate category.
I'm so sorry I didn't say anything, but I was sort of waiting. I thought you were asking them if they had any more comments. So, and I will, wait until later for my other issue.
Well, I think that time would be
Yeah.
at this moment, yes. Is there
Okay.
any public comment on building and grounds now?
Okay, all right. I have a issue, and a few people here, I think the police department knows about it, and a couple other people know about it. I'm going to send, at recommendation of the mayor, he's going to send the pictures that were forwarded. We had a really strange thing happen on Friday on my property, and I think I'm correct, Mr. Heller would know, but I think I'm correct that the owner of the property is responsible for properly maintaining the trees in the parkway of the property. But somebody came along and butchered my trees at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, thinking they were going to move the mobile home down the street and they didn't want it scratched. They didn't at that time have a permit. They were turned down for the permit. I thought Leander was going, there you are, excuse me. I didn't turn around right. Am I okay talking about this now? And you and I have talked that there wasn't a permit yet, and then there was one filed. But I think they were turned down originally on the street widening, or you know what I'm saying, raising the lines and trimming the trees. And if that wasn't introduced to a council meeting, I would sort of wish it would have been, because that's a pretty dramatic, he had lots of choice, whoever, Mr. the
So
gentleman
Trudy,
had.
if I could jump in
What's
for
the
just a
address?
second, just to bring everybody up to date on, essentially, and as far as the agenda goes, the agendas have to go out 48 hours in advance, and so there wasn't an opportunity to get this matter on the agenda formally. But Mr. Steve Lee, who lives at the end of Division Street, as a lot of people know it as Peanut Hill, is wanting to move in a large manufactured home. And because of the fact that the trees over the years have grown somewhat over the road, he was concerned that it was going to, as she said, scrape that manufactured homes is brought in. Trudy's right that there was a lot of work done without a building permit, being issued. Yesterday, Leandra asked me if I would issue that permit, and there was just enough kind of smoke in the air clouding around this issue. I said, no, I'm not going to sign it and refund them their money, because I didn't want to, issue a permit that, well, maybe I shouldn't, because I didn't have all the facts of what was going on. Really, what this comes down to is that there were a number of trees trimmed in the boulevard in a manner that was certainly not consistent with a safe manner of trimming the trees. And so I understand that Ms. Daly is very upset about your trees being trimmed.
And I want to thank Leander, because I got a couple of pictures, but they didn't want their face in the pictures. The city sent a truck out, and the men took away the branches. They had to saw them up in pieces. Some of them were this big around and 20 feet long, that they cut off my trees, or the trees, and they're my trees. I love those trees. And I will point out at some later time, I accidentally had a picture of before it happened from the mosquito authority being there. Their truck was in the picture, and it showed the canopy level. I have older pictures that show the trucks that come into Sean's Place, Modern Office Supplies. They clear the trees by 20 feet. And then when you bring a manufactured house, you've got a peak and a split down the middle. They could have put that peak down the middle and put the slope on the side that there were no trees. So that wasn't a viable issue as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry.
All right.
What's the address on that?
On the,
This is north, or south 22nd, Danny.
427.
Right before you get.
427.
What happened?
What?
They-
Mr. McComb?
They went down through there and they cut the trees. They did not pick any of the limbs up. They went down at the corner of Division. They trimmed some down through there and just left them lay. They turned right on Division to go to Peanut Hill. As you know, Steve Lee's family had a fire. And this is to replace their house. This double wide. He's putting it, not where his other house is, I don't think, but in that area. And they cut the trees and they just didn't pick anything up.
They piled them up on the sidewalk, 6 feet high. Blocked the sidewalk for 5 days.
Mr. Bastian?
Maybe you might have said, who trimmed the trees? I mean,
We
was
don't
it the manufacturer that was delivering it, or was it?
It's my understanding it was Steve Lee and a family member.
Supposedly they had a bucket, a bucket truck. So somebody that had that bucket truck has a license for it.
Well, it was done using a Ford tractor with a front end loader and a person in the bucket using a chainsaw.
It was done a form of what?
Cigarette butts they left all over my yard and my yard.
But
You took that ocean course, I guess.
I forgot to drive it on the way up tonight to see if they picked everything up. There was some down at the bottom of Peanut Hill going down, where they cut a tree probably that big around and left it. I mean, all in all, I'd like to see Mr. Lindy's family get the way it's been done isn't right, but still, that family needs a place to live. And they had a fire, and they're staying on the property at this time. Not in the house, but I think they have a camper that they're waiting on this to come in to move in. But we'll eventually need to give them a permit to put it back there. Why they didn't come up 20th Street, turn on Division and go straight out,
Would have been easy.
it is beyond me, but the mobile home people did not do it that way.
All right, Ms. Daly, I think that we'll probably get this on the agenda at our next meeting if you want to
Thank you.
come back to that. Is there anything else that you want to?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
all right.
Is there any more public comment on building and grounds? There are none, we'll move out.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Daly. That takes us to community relations, and we have chairing that Mr. John Irvis.
All right, thank you, Mayor. There's no old business, with 2 items of new business. Status update on the Ameren franchise agreement. Still kicking around?
Well, I think that's
Really new?
Yeah.
No, Richard tells me that we have proposed a number of contract changes. They have come back with us with some contract changes, which left us a series of questions, which we asked them in December, a series of about 6 questions, because their document was so ambiguous that we couldn't tell. We get nothing back in response from them. Richard sent another email out this week, because I think this past week. The email comes back that it's no longer a good email address in Ameren. So he sent an email out to the other person in Ameren we have contact with, never heard anything back. So we don't hear anything back. So we don't have hands and claws on them to get anybody by the throat.
I guess at some point, does there, I mean, how much does it matter to us to have this agreement? I mean, at this point, are we wasting time and money? I mean, I know it seems like we've spent a lot of time and money on it already, but.
Well, if I recall, and Richard's on top of this, as I recall, we get an increase in revenue from them once this gets through.
And so that's maybe why they're not
I think
responding.
that's maybe why they're not responding, but I'll follow that up with Richard tomorrow and see
Okay.
where that's at.
So are we getting money now, or we're just in holding pattern because we don't have an agreement?
Well, that was one of my,
We receive money regularly from them.
annually, correct?
No, not from Ameren, no.
No, we're thinking of MediaCom.
Correct. With Ameren, we get credit for so many therms and so many kilowatts and all that stuff.
But isn't that changing under this new
Yes.
contract where we just get money?
Yes.
Instead of credits?
Correct.
And I think the money is greater than the credits. Something like difference between 40 and 70 maybe.
Mhm.
So that may be the reason we're having a difference.
Are we still getting the credits now, though?
Yes, we are. I'm sorry, could we not reach out to our local contact who originally brought the contract to us? That's Tina Gibbs in Marion. I mean, that's just a local name and face that,
I don't see any reason why not. I'm not getting anywhere with the people we're reaching out to now.
I'll give you her number after the meeting, Ed.
Okay.
I've got it right here. I'll write it down and and make sure you have it, so. Thank you for that suggestion, Sandra.
All right, next discussion regarding agreement between Egyptian Building Construction Trades and the City of Murphysboro.
I just would preface this earlier today. I had a meeting with a number of people who are here with us this evening from a variety of different trade unions, and they discussed with me this project labor agreement. The one that's in your packet is for Marion, Illinois, and the one they brought me today, had the language changed such to say Murphysboro, but the agreement that they're proposing would essentially be the same. I believe it's the one in Marion, and so with that, I'll turn it over to whomever they've appointed as spokesman or woman to address the council.
Yeah, we presented Egyptian PLA.
If you could just state your name for the record.
Okay, Martin Rizzi, I'm with the sheet metal workers, also represent the Egyptian building trades. I'd like to say good evening to the council. Thanks for having us here. We met with the mayor and presented, it's the same PLA we've had with Marion for years. We did just sign one last month with the city of Carbondale, very signed PLA. The PLA puts local people, local contractors to work. It keeps our money here, not leaving. As far as that part, when we did present to the mayor, it does have a $100,000 limit on it. Anything under that PLA does not apply. Anything over it, the PLA would apply. Between the crafts, I think what we said, probably had 800 and some.
Between 5 crafts, that was not the total Egyptian Association, but we have between the 5 of us, more than 800 people in Jackson County, over 300 in the city limits of Murphysboro.
And Pat, could you state your name?
Yes, my name is Pat Williams. I'm the business manager for the plumbers and pipefitters here in town.
Mr. McComb.
That's really worked out for the city of Marion too, to help their the residents keep their local jobs, and it's going to help out Carbondale and help us out too. I mean, it's for the unions too, but it's also really for the community, the people who live around here.
Also, we've had one with SIU forever. Also, I'll just go down through the list here, just name off some of the ones that we do have. We do have one with SIU, John A. Logan College, Bryn Lake College, Kaskaskia College, Shawnee College, Williamson County, Union County, Franklin County, City of Marion, City of Carbondale, City Assessor, City of Pinckneyville, City of Metropolis, Jonesboro School District, Perrin School District, and I think you could call any of them up, and we've never had a complaint as far as with the project labor didn't work. It seems like everything usually goes smooth, the jobs come in on time, a lot of times they come in under budget.
I think it's important too, because I know that you met with me earlier and we've sort of had a lengthy conversation, but could one of you just kind of give the flyover at 30,000 feet of what exactly a project labor agreement means in short? Because I'm sure that there may be some members of the council who are...
In short?
Or in long, whichever you prefer.
I think, okay, a project labor agreement is a type of pre-hire agreement designed to facilitate construction projects. PLAs are pre-negotiated contracts that govern the work rules, pay rates, and dispute resolution processes for every worker on the project. This type of agreement provides a pool of highly trained, because most of our guys they serve apprenticeships, which is 4-year apprenticeships, trained skilled workers in each segment of construction, and ensures that an on-time, on-budget project completion.
Mayor, Brady Bradley from Laborers, but one of the things I want to say, this doesn't prevent a company from bidding on a project. So, any company can bid on a project. It's just saying that they will use our guys in from Mississippi or, you know, guys and girls that live and work here. So.
Can you tell me what all of the unions that are represented are represented? I can't say it. That are, who are you guys?
I'm Jerry Womack with Laborers.
Okay.
What's the sheet?
Yes, I got that
That way.
one. Plumbers, yes, I know you.
And I'm Brandy Bradley with the Labor.
Your labor's also.
I'm with IBEW Local
That's
702.
West Frankfurt.
West Frankfurt.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
I would make a
Corey
motion.
Jarrett.
I'd make a motion we adopt this if nobody got any more questions.
I've
on
got a
it.
question.
Mr. Bratton?
I'm pretty familiar with this. Some of you, I think Corey knows. The only one that was BA's, I think, when I was still in business. But anyway, it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. And I was a union contractor for 33 years. And a couple of years I was non-union. I finally got that worked out with the carpenters. But anything over $100,000, you can't build very much of a house for less than $100,000 anymore.
Not residential, so we're not gonna do residential.
So this is not residential, this is strictly commercial.
And this isn't private, so this isn't, you know, the hotel coming in, you know, this doesn't affect that developer.
What does it affect then?
Our job.
Just the city's job?
Just the city.
City's contract.
So,
Mr. Pittman?
Well, and,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and I do have one disagreement. It does not guarantee that the job can come in on time. I mean, I think, is that what you stated that? And
Well, you can't guarantee that on.
that's what I'm saying. You can't guarantee that. I've seen,
Historically, they do though.
Yeah.
They got very
Historically.
high rate coming in on time, and a lot of times under budget.
I'm not for it or against it. I just kind of ask myself, do we have a dog in this hunt? Because I know for a fact that a lot of the contractors that came in, they've signed a labor agreement with the building trades when they come in for that one project or whatever. Then they go back to where they were at. That's all strictly non-union. And
Well, the only thing what we're saying is, most of our contractors around here, they're gonna hire our local people that live right here in Murphysboro
Correct.
and Jackson County.
you know, I don't know what the ratio is now. Well, if a contractor come in from Alabama, that he can bring his superintendent, maybe a foreman in, and that's it. The rest of it's gotta be, you know, and most of it
But
is
he
gonna
would
be
have to
union.
hire our people.
Yeah.
Under this agreement.
Yeah, but if they come in and they're a union, they're gonna have to hire your people anyway.
Well, but, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's what I'm kinda getting at, you know, to me, it's, I don't know.
So I think your dog in the, you said you don't think you have a dog in the fight. I think part
Pardon?
of that, did you say you don't think the city has a dog in the fight? Is that what you were saying?
Dog in this hunt, no, I don't.
Yeah, well, you do, because there's 881 members that are residents of Jackson County. So what we're trying to do.
But not in Murphysboro. There's 300 somewhere. Is there 800 some odd in
There's
Murphysboro?
300 electricians, the 702 members, and.
Okay, well, maybe there is probably 800, because I know this is
Including
three.
the carpenters, cement finishers, plasterers, painters.
Yeah.
That was just these crafts sitting right here.
So the crafts sitting right here are not all that will be
No, ma'am.
represented in,
No, ma'am.
represented in this contract. You also would have the finishers and
Yes,
plasters and teamsters. there to be-
Yes,
Okay.
the building
And-
trades covers all of the building trades crafts.
Okay, thank you.
If we were, somebody gave us a chunk of money because they didn't like us or did like us, and we could actually build a new police station and fire station, then what this would do, it would guarantee that it would be built union by local members.
If it was
And I
over
guess-
$100,000.
If it's over 100,000, which is gonna be over 100,000.
Where does it say it? Where does it say anything like that?
Are
Well,
you
it's in there.
referring to the 100,000 or?
No, what he just said. I
It
don't-
doesn't mandate that it's union,
Well,
it just
says
mandates
where in
that,
here where it says anything about who employees will be, it just talks.
I don't think, I mean, it may not say that per detail,
It
but
requires that they follow the local standards, whatever your prevailing wage rates are.
Well, we have that anyway.
All right, if we could have one person at a time, conversation's getting a little convoluted. Mr. Heller, do you have something you want to add to the conversation?
Well, I just don't see anything in here that says those things.
It'd be on the signing sheet, which we presented to the mayor, which this is the one that Carterville signed. On it, that's what it would say, 200,000.
Right, no, I get that, but what I don't see in here is any definition of what the standards would be, what the, you know, any.
Mayor.
Mhm.
It's because there's not a
There's nothing in here
PLA
about who the
in this
employees would be, and the
document.
things we're saying.
We haven't seen any PLA that lays out those
It
details.
doesn't say those things.
Yeah, Mr. Pat Williams.
The Egyptian building trades are all the building trades unions in the Egyptian Association. So they will be all union employees. Doesn't necessarily say the contractor has to be a union contractor. He just has to be signatory to work the local people.
Also, if I could.
Pat?
Yes.
Pat, here's my question. I understand that concept. It doesn't say it. This agreement doesn't say.
There is a more lengthy agreement.
Yes.
There is a more lengthy document than the document which was handed out in the council package.
Then I'll retract my comment. If you want me to comment on this thing, well, let me see the agreement we're expected to sign, the whole thing.
Sure.
You know, this looks to me like what Marion signed, one page right here. It doesn't say any of those things.
That is the cover sheet for the total agreement.
Yeah, it indicates an attached, project labor agreement, but we don't have an attached project labor agreement that lays that stuff out.
Mr. Urbis.
So how does this vary from prevailing wage, which we already are? How is this different? So, or how does this apply to that?
So it doesn't cost anymore, right? So they're already paying prevailing wage. Just to say they're gonna use our local labor. So they're gonna use your neighbor, instead of somebody they're bringing in. And they're gonna, so it makes the cost the same. It doesn't cost anymore. It just says, hey, we're gonna use who we know is highly trained, knows how to, gonna spend their tax dollars.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Mr. I don't know. I know WJ had his hand up for the longest. Mr. Pitt.
So, I've got a couple things. I mean, I don't think this is addressing any issues that we've previously had. So is there a need for it? One, I know you say there's 300 union members represented in all the unions within the city limits, but I would say there's probably equally 300 non-union, tradespeople within the city limits that are basically excluded from being able to work on city projects because of this. Not if they bid it, not if they're a company contractor, but are you guys gonna call non-union people under this labor agreement, if an out-of-town contractor?
No, our members are highly trained and they go through an apprentice program and stuff, but.
As of right now, our apprentice school out on 17th and Gartside Street have 26 apprentices out there. 11 of them are from the city of Murphysboro.
Right. I'm not saying that there's not Murphysboro union members, but I'm saying this excludes some Murphysboro tradespeople from being able to work on any city project, because even though it doesn't say that you're not going to hire them, I mean, you're gonna go through your hall to hire people that, when an out-of-town contractor gets a bid and they're looking for local people, you're not gonna go door to door or look up in the phone book local tradespeople.
No, we go through highly trained, we train our.
Right, but there's highly trained people,
And a lot of your out-of-town contractors are not looking for local people. They bring their people with them. They build the project, they leave, they take their tax money, or your tax money, take it back home, where they come from. Decatur, Alabama, Georgia, wherever. And, right now, our people, when they work in town, or they work in the city, Carbondale, City of Marion, they spend those tax dollars right there. They shop at the grocery store, they pay the school taxes, they pay the sales taxes. That's why we like to keep our people close.
Mr. Urbis?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've seen it, and it doesn't even, address the city of Murphysboro, so I think we should see a complete agreement before we vote on it. Not inclined to vote on something that I haven't seen, that our attorney hasn't had a chance to look at.
Mr. Bastian, and then Mr. Bratton, and then we'll try to wrap it up. If we
Well,
can.
I'm just in full agreement of the city going into to an agreement with them. And if everybody was done, I believe there was a motion on the table by Alderman McComb. And if he wants to remain that motion on the table, I will second your motion.
I still got it on the table. And also, I know 318 in here, but they're represented to this too. I know represent a lot of them, and I don't know how many non-union contractors we have in town that's gonna bid many jobs around town over $100,000, so they don't have the people to work them.
All right, a motion and a second. Mr. Bratton, do you have a comment?
Oh, there's not much doubt in my mind it's not gonna pass, but I think we do need the full contract to read it. And basically, it's gonna keep local people that are union, not just prevailing wage, but union, local people is what it's trying to, am I correct? Correct. Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second on the floor. I would just, of course, remind people, I do think it's always good due diligence to have our attorney review the entire contract. We'll take ask for a roll call vote.
Alderman Hughes?
I'm going to vote no, simply because I have not seen a complete agreement, not because I'm against any union. My husband and my son are both strong union people, and I have nothing against that. I just would like to see a whole report before I voted for that. And I thought.
Alderman Curry-Witzman?
I'm going to vote no as well for the same reasons as Ms. Hughes did. And my husband also is in the union and a union rep, and I'm not against the contract, but I would like for us to be able to review it as well.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Alderman Voss?
Yes.
Alderman McComb?
Yes.
Alderman Urbis?
No, I mean, just not at this time. I think we need to see more paperwork. So I'm not opposed to the concept.
Alderman Bratton?
No, I want to see the paperwork, and then it'll pass.
Alderman Bastian?
Yes.
Alderman Campos?
No.
Alderman Pittman?
No.
Four yes.
All right, motion fails, but I will get the entirety of the language to our city attorney. We'll get this back on our next agenda.
I'll get back on next
Yes.
agenda.
And we will consider it again at that time. And I think, sounds like likely from the tone of the council that it will likely pass. So it's just a matter of making sure we don't get our cart before the horse here. Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your time and effort.
Any public comment on community relations? Guess we'll move on.
Okay. That takes us to public improvement chaired by Mr. Mike Bastian. Mike?
We have no old business this evening, and we have no new business, unless the aldermen have anything that they would like to add. Is there any public comment? With that being said, we'll close public
Mr.
improvement.
Brent, did you have something?
Yeah, I think I brought it up last meeting. I don't know if this is the proper place or not, but what's the status on the barricades on between 16th and 17th on the north side of Walnut Street?
I
in
can
the
send an
alleyway?
email out.
There was an email, yeah.
I don't email.
Okay.
Well, I can bring you up.
Well, I got one, Sanders got it, but I didn't receive it. If I did, I didn't.
Well, I can bring you up to date on that. Amy Mills let me know that there is that critical piece of steel that they were waiting on is going to be delivered August the 6th, and that they plan to, at that morning to get busy. And the contractor says that, they didn't give 100% assurance, but they gave, I forget what number they said, it was 90-something% sure that they would have the sidewalk clear and secured in time for the Apple Festival.
And actually, I've noticed new building materials. There's several loads of brick and things that have just in the last day or so been arriving at this site. So,
Thank you.
progress.
Sure, absolutely.
Even the old people have all the windows up. The old people.
The old depot?
Yep.
I thought you said the old people.
Them too.
Be careful.
I said the old people, Gary.
I resented that. Being rough.
The Everybody is birthday, the accent, the same, okay?
Oh, forgive me for that.
No, it's okay.
I mean, you gotta consider Mike Mills has spent a ton of money up there on that property.
Yes.
And even if it's not completely that way by Apple Festival, we need to consider keeping it blocked off for half a block. I don't think it's gonna hurt the Apple Festival to maybe keep a brick or two from falling on somebody. I mean, the guy is spending a lot of money up there, investing in the city of Murphysboro, and we're up here supposed to be business friendly. We need to let him get on with the project without pushing him out of not doing it. I mean, it's just, Mike's invested in Murphysboro, Amy has, and all they hear is talk about, we want that thing done for 2 parade days. And I think we're just pushing the wrong way on it. Personal opinion, I just wanted to say that.
Mr. Bratton?
Let me clarify something. I want to be business friendly, but I also wanted to know, because I didn't see much operation or any improvement or any changes made for a few months, and I wondered what was going on.
Fair enough. All right, so I believe that we are coming out of public improvement. Is that correct, Mr. Bastian?
That is correct.
All right. That takes us to Public Works, and chaired by Mr. Dan Bratton. Dan?
Okay, old business, there's nothing listed under. New business, discussion regarding the status of the property at 221 South 14th Street. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson are here. 2 meetings ago, they said that they would have it done by this meeting. Have the roof on, soffit and fascia. And what has been accomplished since then is, oh, and the coal chute thing covered. What's been accomplished is the yard's been cleaned up, new roof, new soffit, new fascia, new gutter, shutters painted, front porch painted. On the outside, what else have I?
Yeah, on the outside.
Yeah, so for far as the outside, they did everything plus what they said. I was a little bit of a pest. I was by there about every other day or every third day. Sometimes I forget, you know, the reason I wasn't there. But it looks very nice, and
It does look nice, by the way.
I appreciate the work you've done, and you're a man of your word.
It looks very nice.
So, is there any comment on that from the council?
Well, I guess my comment would be, you know, we have this order, and I'd look to our city attorney, if it's the prerogative of the council to not want to pursue that order, is there something that this body needs to do formally in this meeting to not pursue that?
Actually, yes, we do have an order to condemn the property, demolish the property. I have a question before I answer the real question. Is there any component here of anything else that's got to be done?
The inside.
Or are we monitoring what's happening inside? Is that any issue to us at this point?
To my knowledge, I don't even know if they've started working on the inside or not.
Is there any reason for us to maintain the demolition order? I mean, I know that's, that helped get us to where we are, but if we don't have any program going on with the inside of it, you could pass a vote to have us vacate the order.
Well, it's my thought that, you know, there has been certainly progress on the outside. I drove down there before the meeting tonight and took a look at it and saw the roof, saw the progress, and looks good. There's bird nesting in the mailbox out front, but I can understand why you didn't want to clear that out until they got that mission complete, raising the little ones. But you know, I don't mean this in any way, you know, I'm very, very happy about the progress. Very, very happy about it, and I'm very confident that you will take it to its completion. But I wouldn't be comfortable at this point vacating that order just yet, not that we're gonna pursue it, but, you know, our attorneys, I mean, I don't know how much money our attorneys have in pursuing that kind of an order.
Several dollars.
And so, just until the time that, you know, it's rented again, I don't have any, you know, doubt that it's gonna be rented again and that it's, you know, you're gonna continue to work on it. But, you know, we have a lot of money invested in just pursuing those kind of orders. And, you know, my time's not worth much, but I got a little bit of time in it myself. So, that's my perspective on it, Mr. Pittman.
My question on that is if it's no longer an eyesore in the neighborhood, it's not unsafe to any of the neighbors, it's not a home for wildlife to go in and out of because it's sealed on the outside, what does it matter to us as long as it's uninhabited, what the inside looks like? You know, it's their income that the rent will be producing for. It's not anything that's gonna affect anything on us as long as those, you know, as long as it's not, doesn't have a mal effect on anybody in the community. I mean, what do we care?
Well, that's a good point.
I am in agreement. I think it will be an regional park, you know, we cannot tell people how to leave the house after they close their door, you know? They can do whatever they want inside as long as it doesn't affect the
As long as
community.
nobody's living there.
I think so.
Excuse me, you know, we do have an interest, I'm not saying we're trying to get inside of this house, but we do have an interest in what goes on inside these houses. And our obligation to monitor safety, it would include inside. It's not that here's the issue that I see where we would come to a point where something's gotta be done. If they have that house ready to go and ready to, I assume you're gonna rent it or sell it, you know, they won't be able to sell it if it's under a demolition order, and they won't be able to have somebody occupy it if it's under a demolition order. So at the point that they have it ready to rent, before they would be able to rent it, you know, we would need to vacate that. Not saying, I'm not disagreeing with it staying on, I'm not disagreeing with it coming off. I'm saying there is a point in the future where the order being there would prevent them from putting it to use.
All right. Any other thoughts from Ms. Hughes?
I just have one question for you guys, actually. What's your anticipated time of having it ready for rental property?
Well, the back apartment needs carpet in it. We had several people helping our grandkids, and they painted the back apartment and got it ready and started cleaning it up. And like Mr. Howard said, with that order, we can't get power turned on. I've done all the work with the power generator to this point. And my concern too is, you know, the last 30 days I spent about $12,000 on it. And do I put more into it and then get before the judge and him have a bad day and say, no, tear it down?
Yeah, oh, I understand that concern, yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, it'd be a gamble from this point with that order on.
Mr. Wallace?
Also, I think it's important to note the track record of these folks has been sterling, and they've done everything that's been requested. I left the last meeting with the impression that if you lived up to your end of the deal, that would be vacated. And I feel as though if just because we've invested in the process, that we don't vacate it just because we have an investment in the process. I mean, you said yourself that you have no doubt whatsoever that they're going to move forward in good faith. I feel as though when we acted in the way that we did, we were in essence saying, if you do what we're asking of you, then we'll vacate it. And that I feel as though we're going back on our word if we don't.
Go ahead, Mr. Herbers.
Ed, is there any issue with the court not, sitting on the order? I mean,
Well, the court's not concerned about the status of the order, and I can't imagine a circumstance that if we, at any time in the future, presented the court with a motion to vacate that order, that they would send us home saying no.
No, you gotta tear it down.
They're not gonna-
I've never seen that happen.
they're not gonna dismiss it.
I get the theoretical you're pointing out there. there, but we don't really see that much.
No.
Bratton?
If my memory serves me correct, there was a discussion about protecting them. It wouldn't be right for them to go in and do all this work and then us tear it down, enforce the demolition at the last meeting. And that's what I came away with. Now, because there was a fire in there, I assume that there will have to be an inspection on it. So I would say that probably what the standard thing would be before you rent the rear apartment, have it inspected, and then go ahead and that could possibly be occupied as long as it was safe, because the other part wasn't finished. But I came away from the meeting that, like Mr. Voss, that if they performed and did what they said they do, and they did, they exceeded that, and they had it done a couple of days ago, that we would lift that order. But I'm just one person, but that was my understanding also.
Well, it's your committee, Mr. Bratton. If we want to have a motion, we could have one.
I'd entertain a motion to lift the demolition.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Compost, and then we had a second by
Either one of us.
Voss or McComb, whichever one you want to pick.
Go ahead.
I second.
We need a roll call on that.
I don't think so. It could be a simple
All right.
motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
And there was also a little bit of confusion about a building permit, and because of the fact that we didn't ask him for a building permit, but he's assured me that he'll go in there tomorrow and take care of that. So, and I understand him not wanting to put out money, go in and spend, I think it may have been Alderman Pittman, go in and spend $10,000 or $15,000 only to have it tore down. So you get that taken care of, and when the other does, get a hold of Eric and Leandra, you guys can issue a permit tomorrow. Is there any other comment from the Alderman? Public comments? Okay.
When I first arrived in Murphysboro, even though I'm retired, I drove the school bus, and Eric heard me, and a lot of people heard me. I couldn't believe how many abandoned houses, as a school bus driver, I could look into and see dressers inside them. And the issue as a landlord had been always, to me, you don't do work if you're not protected. And they wouldn't be able to get insurance. Somebody could come in and steal hot water heater stoves, electrical wiring, copper plumbing and everything with that demolition. They're not gonna be able to get insured. You know, so I think that's very important. You know,
Okay.
I think that's critical.
Any other comment? Will come out of Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bratton. That takes us to Public Safety, chaired by Mr. Russell Brown. Russell?
Okay, on old business, discussion regarding rural property and concrete drainage issue.
Well, all I can tell you is that I brought this with me, because this is my homework. This is all the minutes and whatnot, and the paperwork surrounding that, you know, from 90.
And then that's all?
899. So I'm just gonna ask one more time. I don't wanna keep belaboring this, to hold this over. I'm gonna review this stuff and then come back and we can have further conversation on it.
Good job, man.
You want to table it?
Yes, sir, thank
Be good reading at night.
you. Yeah, well, it'll,
do.
it's, you better, don't read it in the morning or you won't wake up.
Okay, on a new business, discussion regarding parking on North 15th Street. You got something on that sheet?
I guess, this was brought to me, I don't really know the backstory about it. I'm assuming somebody complained about cars parked on both sides of North 15th. Is that right, Sandra?
It was in the notes from the last meeting.
Okay.
But I didn't think it was North 15th Street.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It was?
There. He lives there above.
First couple blocks.
Okay.
From Walnut,
So we got
Pass down
we
to
got a map,
Baptist Church.
we got a map from Sandra and went out and where it marked where people were parked. And They park on both sides, north and southbound of 15th Street. Under our city code, and all the way up to Garside, under our city code, those sections of North 15th are no parking. We have lots of areas under our city code that are technically no parking, and we don't have no parking signs. On this stretch of North 15th, the only place we have no parking is in the 600 block southbound. We have one block that is no parking on the southbound side. So I guess the question is, do we amend the city code to get rid of the no parking? We don't have signs. I'm not going to have officers out enforcing without signs because I don't think that's right. We're going to put signs on both sides. Is it the council's pleasure to change it to no parking southbound or no parking northbound, so they only park on one side? I mean, I can tell you all the way from Walnut and 15th, all the way up to Garside and 15th, there's people that park on both sides of the street. And those are residences for the most part, except for Walnut and 15th.
And, well, and the Baptist church.
Yeah, and the Baptist church. And then right around Walnut and 15th, it's been my understanding since day one when I came, there's kind of been a tacit understanding that the businesses could park right there because there's not enough parking out on Walnut at 15th Street. So that's kind of always been a blanket rule that they're allowed to park there. I will tell you, I'm not personally knowledgeable of any wrecks we've had on North 15th in that area. I can tell you that I've responded to a lot of calls on North 15th in that area, and I've never been able to get through. I don't know about Chief Swafford. The fire trucks are much larger than my vehicles, so that might be an issue for him. But that's what I've got for you, whatever fed into the previous meeting, which I was on vacation for.
Chief Swafford, do you want to comment on that?
Well, I don't know of any particular instance, but anytime you got parking on both sides of the street, it makes it hard to get fire truck through there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible, but create an hindrance.
Is it just a matter of we need to put up signs where we already have an ordinance that says that we have no parking?
Well, I will say that the ordinance is for both sides of those, so.
All the way down? Or
Yeah,
just on
it's,
the end?
15th Street from Elm to Garside, Gray Street to Alley, Manning Street north, Oak Street north, Walnut Street to Alley.
So all of 15th?
Yeah. And are you really going to make it no parking on both sides for the citizens that live there? I mean, one way or the other, the ordinance probably needs to be amended.
The church people quit praying for you down through there if you can't park.
Their business just right there on Walnut too.
I know.
On Sunday there on both sides,
Well, when you
all the
go-
way down.
Why are we?
I was gonna say, why are we questioning this?
I think
Somehow I can't remember this from last
I think
time.
Mr. Kimball brought it up while he
Yes,
was here
Mr.
last.
Kimball brought it up
Oh, okay.
the last meeting.
I'd leave it alone. Leave it alone?
That's my prayer, just leave it alone for some
Chief, what is your opinion on leaving it alone?
I have never had a single resident, other than the one problem we did deal with in the 600 block from Mayor's aware of. I have not had a single resident that's ever come to me on North 15th about the parking issue. So, personal knowledge, I don't have any.
600 block where the old Logan School is at, or is that?
No, it's up by Garside. We had a particular problem there that we addressed. It tends to have been quiet for the past 6 months. It was a real problem for a while.
All right, Russell.
All in favor of leaving it like it is.
Oh, we have to have a motion of something.
We don't have to do
We don't
anything.
have to do anything, okay. All right, we can just not do anything.
Any public comment? Now we come out of public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. That takes us to personnel, chaired by Ms. Hughes. Barb?
And there's no old business, no new business, and public comment on personnel. Hearing none, I think we can move on now.
All right, I do need to use our executive session this evening. Hopefully it won't take very long, to discuss personnel matters. And so I'd entertain a motion to go into executive
So
session.
moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like Chief Swafford, Chief Roberts to stay, as well as our attorney. Everybody else will be
Ben
back
moves.
with you in a moment. And of course, the alderman, if you'd like to stay, you're welcome to. Ms. Ripley.
Oh, you can stay.
interested with me, but we've got them at the office.
And are we as far as where we've done title work on those properties
We
yet
haven't,
or not?
well, yeah, I gotta ask Richard exactly. I think we've got the title work on it, Squire.
And
I know that.
say she doesn't ever pay us, do we want 2 properties in Carbondale back?
Well, these are, now we don't know what this cost is gonna be, but, you know, Eric at times has told us he thought between 15 and 20. And these are houses in that Glenview section of Carbondale, which, you know, and 2 houses with no lead. That's gonna
And we're
be
resolving a
40.
safety issue.
Right.
Most important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to getting
Yeah.
that done.
So
I'm just
I think
saying,
we're,
worst
you know, I
case
think
scenario.
the properties that we will be taking are way, both of them way more than sufficient to cover that amount.
You know, first we gotta find out how much money she needs to get them down.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you
where
gotta go
that's-
there.
and
That's
she
where
is-
we're
I
at.
convinced, in the last round of discussions, I convinced them that she needed to be the one, we're in this to be the lender, that she needed to be the one that finds a contractor and signs the contract with the contractor. We're the lender here. We don't want any control of this project. Because there's gonna be release.
You know, neither one of those companies are demolition companies either.
No, neither one of them.
You know,
They're
she's got
construction.
connections with those companies, is why, I guess why she's doing that. I mean, really, that's, my first thought when he told me those names. I know them both, that's high-end stuff. They're, you know, that's not Bucky Rossett or Ryan Edwards. Which is where I would think she'd be headed, somewhere like that.
I was gonna say, you'd think she'd look at Ryan and,
Mr. McComb?
We're talking about them, you know, demoing, are they gonna take that stack down too?
This is, the
That's
stack,
just the
stack
building.
is not in. What's in this is that building that's up against 19th Street, getting that building down on its south side, its west side, and its north side, all the way back to where it joins the other building that's south.
Yeah.
So we're taking that whole, just putting it on the ground and then fencing it.
They're not cleaning it up, right? Okay.
Getting it down where
Make it
our
fencing.
order is
Wouldn't be
to
like
make
to
safe.
get it cleaned up.
Okay, any other comments on that?
I do have, and like, I don't want this to sound like I'm fishing for business in it anyway, because I mean, has she tried other means to borrow money to do, you know, or do we want to get into the lending business? Is that something that we've done before, or that we want to?
Generally not. This is gonna be a little bit unique, and this is driven by the fact that she and Carl didn't have great income. And we've got a public safety issue here that we had the ability to fund a solution that would be less than a total cleanup and keep us out of any control. This is key for us, is we don't want to be in control of this project. We just want to be the lender. And we don't want the court to give us an order that we can do it. We want them to do it. And that's, I guess, our mechanism for keeping us from having to get deeper into control.
Right. I mean, generally, from an underwriting standpoint, on a bank, you know, if you're dealing with somebody that doesn't have much income, you're basically doing the asset-based lending to where you're assuming that you're gonna get paid back by getting those properties back, you know? So, you know.
And that very well could be, but those properties are not the shoe factory.
Right. No, I mean, I'm not saying, like I said, I believe,
you're right.
I believe we should make that safe somehow, you know? I'm just saying, for one, you're competing with
Well,
multiple
yes.
businesses
Yeah.
within town, you know, that have they had the opportunity to have that business, you know, care in the area, you know. For two, it's from an underwriting standpoint, you're dealing with somebody who's probably not a great borrower, so, you know, worst case scenario, are we just assuming that we want those properties in Carbondale to trade for this work that's gonna be done on the shoot bank? And I think that's the way we should look at it, is that what we wanna trade as a property in Carbondale to make that safe? And if that's the way, like I'm not 100% opposed to that, because I do think we could sell them probably for what it's gonna cost.
I think your question is probably right. I think that is the question. I think we've kind of talked before about, not really in those terms, but, you know, this is a way to get this done when we're having trouble getting it done another way.
And I think that's the way we do need to look at it, is we're basically trading the safety of that building for us going to have to go through the motions of selling a property in Carbondale that may take forever. We may have to pay the real estate taxes on it. We may have to, you know, until it gets switched over, we'll have to, any liability that arises with owning that property over there, we'd have that also, you know.
I think you're
The
also
first-
assuming that.
Mr. McComb?
The
Gary?
first thing to look at, if somebody's walking down that sidewalk and that building falls, are you gonna live with the deal of maybe somebody's walking out there, pushed a stroller with 2 little kids and
Right.
falls on them and kill them? We don't even know how much money we're talking about. It could be 10,000, it could be 25,000.
Right.
We don't know.
Or 50.
So, but to get it on the ground, years ago, we could have got it done for nothing. The city didn't want to be involved with it then. So, I mean, let's find out first how much money we're talking about to get this building down and make it safe for the public. You know, that's part of my ward, and I fought with this thing for years and years trying to get something to, and one whole wall was fell down on the north side, and if that west wall falls, our guys is gonna be down cleaning it out of the street and anything else damage it does.
Well, then,
Especially if they gotta dig some little kid out from under it. I mean,
and like I said, I'm all for the safety of it, but then if we're gonna be lending the money to do it, don't we wanna make sure that she's getting the cheapest bid, that, of somebody that will do the job? Do we want, you know, if there are people that can do it cheaper, you know?
On that score, here's what I predict happens on that. I could be wrong, but I think what's gonna happen, she's gonna get bids back that are out of the roof.
they're what?
That are out of the roof. They're just, she's gonna get bids back. EA Knight and E.T. Simon are not gonna bid that job at 15 grand. They're
Well,
gonna bid it at 40.
I've got a list.
Around it too.
And at that point, you know, then we probably will have an opportunity to steer her toward people we think might be better.
Ed, I've got a list of contractors that do demo work. We don't wanna get, does the city wanna have them all give us an estimate just to see what the others look like?
No.
Well,
Here's what I'd like you to do, if you would get me that list of contractors, what I'll do is I'll get that list to John Reynolds so that his client has that list to look at as well.
I'll send it to you.
That's the right move there.
You
We
can't
don't wanna
read,
give bids.
I got it sent to me on my phone, but I got a flip phone and you can't see, there's about 7 contractors.
Come on by the office and we'll have Sandra type it out. My Sandra, not.
Yeah, all right, I can send it
Go
to
by her
you.
office and let her type.
If you got an iPhone or something, I can send it to you
I do.
and you can read it. Cause
Okay.
I put it on my wife's phone and you can read it real fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in your office in the morning anyway.
All right, we'll probably get that.
And
All
I
right.
want to say one thing. I don't want anybody to think I'm opposed to this happening. I just want to look at it in every light that we can and, you know, look at what the worst case scenario is for us to get that back. And if we're willing to do that, I'm not opposed to making that building safe. And if this is the means that it takes to do it, I'm for it too, you know. But I just
Sure.
think we need to look at it in multiple different ways.
All right, that takes me to council member requests, and I'll start to my right with Ms. Hughes.
I don't have any requests. I don't know if all of you know that Tim is back at work as of last month.
Very good. All right, Ms. Curry-Witzman.
I don't have
Mr. Brown.
Nothing.
No, you're not complaining about that property next to you?
Mr. Voss.
Nothing tonight.
Mr. McComb.
One thing and this would go through Eric's office. We got an ordinance on signs between the sidewalk and boulevard. One gentleman got a ticket for the signs being there, is what he told me and one of our ex-aldermen. He didn't put the signs there, but they both complaining about the KC Hall sticking their signs everywhere between the sidewalk and sidewalk. Nobody said anything about it. Somebody just needed to let them know, start getting permission to put them in the yard. And, I mean, every stop sign you go to's got one, and it's illegally there. We just need to let them know that they need to move them back off of the city property, because if we're writing one person tickets for it, and we're letting, and the others are sliding all over town, and I understand why they're letting them slide, but we just need to get that
Do we have any members of St. Andrew's Church here this evening?
Chief Roberts.
You know, I've been there all my life. I agree if it's illegal, but if you do it for the Knights of Columbus, you better do it for the Kiwanis, you better do it for the
You do it
yard
for
sale
everybody.
people, you do it for everybody, not just pick and choose who you
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Well, the guy got the ticket, he comes to
Because
me.
what'll happen, they'll
I'll
go
send
do
an email
that,
to
and
Garrett,
then it'll go
he's
on
the
and
man.
on, and then they'll just let the other people.
Would you handle that, Chief?
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Urbis,
Nothing.
Mr. Bratton.
I don't know really where to go with this. But Eric's gone for 2 weeks, I understand, on vacation. I got a phone call from one of our citizens who seems to be back in the fight on an alley pertaining to Ryan and Morfield. I think Alderman McComb got the same call. And Mr. Ryan started building his new house back after the fire. And evidently, I don't know how far that alley goes back, going that would be west. And when he dug the footings, they leveled off the dirt, and the dirt's going across, looked to me like what is the alley, which years and years ago, somebody really screwed up on that legal, which is what it there anyway, we can't do anything about that. So, I don't know where to go to find an answer for Mr. Moorfield. I don't have the authority to ask Mr. Ryan to don't put any more dirt in our public alley that we're not maintaining. So what do I do with this?
I don't know that I've got an answer to that. You've got an alley that's been used as an alley, and then the other end of it's been practically, not legally, but practically vacated. It hasn't been used as an alley for many, many, many years, I don't think.
Well, I would say until Mr. Morfeo or Mr. Ryan wants to come to a council meeting and express themselves, that I'm not personally gonna worry about it.
Okay, I just want to know when I'm approached again.
Well,
what I'm-
I think
how I'm
Will would
supposed to
go
handle
by, we fought this to get this alleyway. And it goes all the way back to where Bill parked his trailer and his truck back there. And that's what I think he's covering up. But I can go by Leandra's office tomorrow and she can pull the map and see how far that alley does go all the way back.
I think the alley, the original alley, the way it's platted, or the original plat goes all the way across the back of the whole property.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, like.
But we got a sewer, if I remember right, there's a sewer line manhole back there.
I don't know if that's right or not.
Yeah, I think Tim Lee said that there was a sewer line manhole.
I thought that I don't know this, I was thinking the manhole was actually behind Marfield. It was north of that alley behind Marfield. The city used that alley to get back to that manhole, but they didn't use it back behind Ryan.
I will check with Leandra tomorrow, how many feet off the road goes back. And I got 100-foot tape, I can measure it, put a stake down and measure another 100 foot just to see. I don't think nobody really knows where the alleyway is anyway, but that's why Bill wanted that open, so he could back there and get his trash. You know, take that bag out in the truck.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted that
That's
open.
exactly why, yeah. So you don't want to put his garbage out.
And I'll check it tomorrow, Danny.
Huh?
I'll check out, see
Okay,
what I can
just-
find out.
If Mr. Morfield calls me again, I want to have the proper answer. And that's all I have.
Mr. Bastian,
Nope, I have nothing.
Ms. Campos.
Don't dread this moment. I just went to a Blueport last week, and I was with the mayor, and he was really bragging about it, and I think I talked to you a few months ago about this. We have the opportunity that we are having new business coming into town. Maybe we can attract more people doing some of these little idea. And the reason is might not be some income coming to our town, but and paying fees, but it will be on purchasing, on utilities, on everything. So just Just an idea, just an idea. Maybe we can look at something over here and adopt.
Yeah,
We want
definitely.
more people in our beautiful community.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. I'll give it some review. It looks very interesting.
Thank you.
Mr. Pittman? All right, that takes us to department head requests. Attorney Heller? Mr. Sheffer?
I have a couple updates. Hopefully, I think we've cleared the last hurdle on the wastewater plant road, the flood mitigation. So hopefully the Corps signs off on it and we'll be ready to go out to bid on that. So the overlays, the next meeting, we'll have a resolution on those, send everything over to IDOT to get their approval on that. So if we pass that resolution, we'll be ready to go on those too.
Harold, we got training coming up at the range, so training's, you know how long that's gonna take to shut our range down?
It'll be shut down for a while. And also on that, I know Jim and I have to get with, property owner out there, Jackie Krieger. Because there is some, right of way in there that we need to acquire from her. I know we've sent that to Ed and Ed's looked at it, but not only from her, but also, Park District. So, trying to get that road, I think there's some uncertainty about right-of-ways or anything, something on that road, the entire length back there, so we'll try to clear all that up at this time too, so. And as far as that goes, I mean, we'll just have to work with you on that.
As soon as you get a timeline, I'll need that, because a lot of these trainings, DOC is using our range now and sharing it as a state. I'll need to remap some of that.
All right, getting income on that.
What about 7th Street?
7th Street, we have sent over to
That ought to be called
IDOT. Originally, we were going to hire the appraisers, the review appraisers, and the negotiators on the right-of-way. They informed us that they have been handling that process, I don't want to say incorrectly, but they've been administering it, not like they should be. And so we have to go through the city to procure those people. So right now, they're approving the city's procurement process. In other words, the city will have to put an ad on your website, and we'll tell the same people we were gonna hire that it's there, and then they'll put a bid in, so.
Run around the house 3 times and take 2
Way
steps
worse,
back.
so-
Yeah, okay. Well, I knew that I thought you said the 1st of July is the
Yeah,
new fiscal year,
that's
so.
exactly right, and they've allocated the money for the right-of-way, so, we're good to go on it.
Okay. So, is there any possibility that can go out this year?
For bid?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think we're still looking at next year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Nothing.
Chief Swafford?
We have completed hybrid testing. Hopefully I'll get a report for you next meeting.
Thank you for that. Chief Roberts?
August 3rd from noon to 2, we're partnering with Housing for the first time. We're doing a back-to-school cookout in Bridgewood, cookout with the cops. I sent the mayor an invitation, all of you were invited.
Is it the 3rd? I thought it was the 2nd.
No, August 3rd, Friday the 3rd.
Okay.
You're doing what now?
It's cookout with the cops. We're
Oh.
doing this down in Bridgewood. We're partnering on it on resources and all, so all of you are invited. I do want you, the police budget, I know you guys have a lot of budgets to look at. I want you to keep a few things in mind as we go through this year. We got hit with 61,000 and change in the contract settlement, which was not in the budget. And then Wunderlich's injury put us a man down for 4 months, and we had to backfill with overtime when he was drugged by the car. And we ran burglary details, which cost us overtime. And then military activation, we presently have 2 officers gone for 30 days on active duty, and another one gone for 2 weeks on active duty. So as you see the police budget, what I've been trying to do, and as you see, we're only 30,000 out of whack, which is pretty good since we absorbed 61,000. We're trying to make some of that back, but this budget has been hit by some bad stuff this year. So keep that in mind as you look at it, because I know it looks like a sore thumb on that budget sheet, okay? And that's all I have.
Thank you. Leandro? Jim Stewart?
Mayor, just real quick, I want to thank the guys at the sewer plant. John Hunsaker, Patrick Gladson, John Michael Crondall, and Tyler Bernardi. These guys over the last 3 to 4 years have done an outstanding job. And not only keeping the old plant running, but transitioning into the new plant. It's a brand new process. We all learn it together. went to other towns and stuff, and, these guys, the council, these guys work 7 days a week. There's somebody there 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So holidays and all this, there's somebody down there working, so. They've also got 8 lift stations they maintain, so. I just think these guys are out of sight and out of mind a lot, and they deserve a lot of credit. And, if you haven't been down to the new plant, please come down. And I'll show you exactly what they do, and, you know, it's just something I think everybody needs to see.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate you sharing that with us. With that, if there's nothing further, Ms. Ripley,
Happy early birthday.
for who?
You.
Oh, yeah.
Birthday?
It's tomorrow.
Anniversary.
It's tomorrow.
Birthday.
It's my birthday tomorrow. No, I've already forgot when my anniversary is.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
Molly doesn't need to know that.
You'll probably get a
Yeah.
unfriendly reminder.
You're gonna be,
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because we haven't adjourned yet, so
Just
it's on
remember the
record.
10, the 20, the 30,
Oh,
the 40,
yeah.
and the 50.
All right, that's, I'll take that advice. Is there a motion to
So
adjourn?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
You want to make 10 if you get 1, 2, 3, 4.
He didn't like much getting married on my anniversary, did he?
No?
Hold up the whole show.
You're holding up the